You know it, I'm coming back at you live. I'm here to share with you everything I sold online over the weekend on eBay. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit of a slow weekend for me. Only sold 12 items, which is very abnormal. Normally I'm used to packaging up about 15 to 20 plus items on a Monday morning, but I'm not gonna fret. The beginning of last week was off the chain. I was very busy Monday through Thursday, and things just seemed to slow down come Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and that's okay. I try to chalk it up to people are preparing for Black Friday, or what I like to call the calm before the storm. So this is nothing new to me, and being a reseller who's experienced, I've dealt with this. So I'm just getting myself ready for the craziness that's about to occur this week, and I'm excited for all the sales I'm going to possibly have on Friday, on Black Friday. But that is in the future. So in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you all these items I sold. And what I got to share with you today is a lot of clothes, a couple pairs of shoes, and even a vintage Atari video game. But what I'll do, as always, as I've said in the past, is I'll share with you what I paid for these items, what I hope to, or what I sold them for, and then what I charge for shipping. And by doing that, hopefully it gives you a better idea of what brands to go out and source, what items sell for how much. And I know that was super helpful for me when I was getting started. So I'm gonna go ahead and kick things off. Now, nothing I sold this weekend was a home run, but just know that your bread and butter items are gonna be what sell for you the most consistently. And when you compound a lot of those bread and butter sales, those consistent items are gonna be the items that make up your income. So I love selling home runs and I love sharing them with you. This is just one of those videos. I don't got any of those, but stay tuned because I come across a lot of those and I'll share those with you in the future. So first item up to bat, this is a Cabela's Octane quarter zip. Now this item was just given to me by a friend. I typically stay away from buying much Cabela's. It's not to say that it's not a good brand, but what I like to source when it is Cabela's is typically just their down hunting jackets, maybe some of their vintage pieces, but generally I won't go out of my way to source or pay up for any Cabela's items unless, like I said, they're wool. This, however, was just given to me by a friend. It was free. This is an Octane O2 quarter zip, and I don't remember the actual camo print on it, but this guy here sold for $13. I charged $6 shipping on it, and it did have some flaws. Otherwise, I may have charged $3 or $4 more for it on the asking price, but because it had some pilling, it had a few fabric runs, I was good to let it go for cheap, and it's only been listed for possibly 2 or 3 weeks. What I like to put in the title for my hunting items is always hunting, obviously. I'll put backwoods, backcountry, and then in the description box, I'll also tag on different species of animals that people like to hunt. So I'll put turkey hunting, deer hunting. I might go as far as putting mule deer hunting or whitetail deer hunting, elk hunting, wild hog hunting. I'll put ground blind. I'll put muzzleloader hunting, rifle hunting, bow and arrow hunting. Just use your imagination. Again, we're just trying to connect the viewers that are looking for these type of items by words that connect them to the item. And so that's where good items in your title box or your description are just going to help you. So glad to see that piece move, even if it wasn't worth a ton of money. Now, be on the lookout. Wrangler 20X, that might be backwards, sorry about that. But 20X jeans sell really well for me. The only other brand of jeans I sell more of in my store is Ariat. And Ariat's definitely a step above Wrangler in my opinion. But these are Style 42. These would be a slim bootcut jean. And I just love selling Western wear. And again, that's because I can find it easily here in northern New Mexico. There's a lot of cowboys, there's a lot of ranchers, and there's a lot of farmers where I live. And so I've really focused on trying to source items that are prevalent in my area. I've gotten more knowledge base about them, but with Western jeans, in the title box, I love to put cowboy. I mean, that's just a given. I'll put rodeo, and then in the description, I'll put farmer, rancher. I'll even go as far as to put work, because there's a lot of guys that work in the construction, the labor-intensive fields, people that work in the oil field, and they love Wrangler. And so while these are not flame-resistant jeans, these still sold for $24.50. I charged $9.95 shipping for them, and I did have to pay up for these. I paid $10.49 for these at a Goodwill in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but they've only been listed less than a week, and they sold. So not a ton of profit, but that is definitely one of my bread and butter items. And so here's another bread and butter item. I love selling outdoor adventure apparel. And one of the reasons I'm spoiled is because I live right next to the Colorado border. And so I typically will spend several days a week up thrifting in Colorado. I'm able to find much better apparel, especially clothing. I find a lot of Gorp Core. I find a lot of nice dress shirts, business, contemporary outfits. And that's a stark contrast to what I find down here in New Mexico, which was much more of a blue collar community. And so I'm glad that I kind of have both flavors and I can fall back on Colorado when the sourcing is slow down here. Because believe me when I say it, there's a lot of competition where I live here in New Mexico. So I have to travel and I have to source differently than a lot of other resellers you might watch online. But this piece here is just simply a Patagonia child's raincoat. It's a girl's coat. I sourced this at my favorite thrift store just right down the road from my house. So shout out to yesterday and today's thrift store. Love all you people down there. I appreciate you looking out for me. I purchased this as part of a $5 fill-a-bag sale. And when you break it down, I only paid $1.85 for this, which was a score. But I got this home and it had a small pinhole on the back. And so for that reason, I did have to list it for a little bit less. It did have a lot of energy. It had a lot of watchers and a lot of views. And it had a lot of interest because of that label, because it's Patagonia. Patagonia is really premium. It's a really great outdoor adventure apparel brand. And it's probably one of my favorites. And it's probably the brand that I sell the most of when it comes to that category. This guy though here simply sold for $13.50. I charged $5.95 shipping for it. And I did sell this on an offer. I think I actually had it listed for $17 or $16. Had this not had the hole in it, I would have priced this at mid-20s to almost $30, and it probably would have sold very quickly. But because it did have the hole and it had a couple small stains, I just had to sell it for less. But again, I only paid $1.85 for it, so I'm good with that. Now, I got another pair of Western jeans for you. This tall drink of water, this big dog. So I don't sell a whole lot of youth clothing, but for some reason I got two pieces. And sometimes when my thrift stores are slow, when I can't find a whole lot of men's apparel, I fall back in the women's section. And when I can't find any women's apparel, I fall back to the kids section. I definitely don't make a whole lot of profit off of selling kids wear, but I do target really good brands, and Cody James is one of them. I love selling Cody James jeans, whether it's adult size, but these little guys right here, I only gave $1.20 for as part of a bag sale, so I'm always trying to find those deals. I did put in the title Little Wrangler, I put Cowboy, and then I also put Thick Stitch. And jeans like these, again, aren't gonna make you a whole lot of money. These did sell also for $13.50 plus $6 shipping. But again, I only gave $1.20 for them. So I'm glad to see them go. I will say goodbye and I will be happy with making money working for myself. So this is probably the coolest piece I have to share with you. Another youth piece. This is a vintage Y2K Nike Youth Satin Snap. It's the Los Angeles Lakers. Unfortunately, this jacket had a few scuffs on the satin, and it also had a few paint scratches on the snaps, but otherwise it was in pretty decent condition. This guy right here sold on an offer for $23, and I also got some shipping out of it. I charged $7.95, but I only gave $4 for this at a garage sale just this past summer, so I've been holding it for a couple months. Part of my business metric is to stash jackets, snowboarding gear, winter wear, and work utility, and I stash it, I hold on to it, and then I relist it, or I actually list it once the fall is coming, and I do really well with that. I'm not saying that that's what you need to do, but I encourage anybody who's getting into reselling to be thinking about your market, to be thinking about how easily you can source items, and to also be thinking about what time of year it is, because that can be very tricky with seasonal items. Jackets sell like hotcakes for me, but I'm here to tell you that a couple months after the holiday, my jacket sales drop off very quickly. So I'm very aggressive with pricing my jackets competitively, not only with the price itself, but also with shipping. And with this jacket, I was willing to take an offer because it was a repeat buyer. And the woman who purchased this sells vintage sports apparel out of a thrift store in Los Angeles. So I was happy to make her a little bit of a deal. Again, she's bought from me in the past. I love developing those type of business relationships. And just in the 2.5 short years I've been a reseller in high volume online, I've connected with people across the country. I have several buyers who love to buy very vintage Wrangler pearl snap brush poppers that have block stripe patterns and also Southwest patterns. And I love to sell them for a lot of money when I can find them. I also have a good friend who's up in Chicago, Illinois, who buys every Polaroid land camera I come across. It's just a good connection. And so I can't stress it enough. Develop repeat buyers, develop connections with people who will source from you regularly, and give them a deal because they'll keep coming back. So obviously with this guy, I will put Y2K, I put that in the title, and then in the description box, I put Los Angeles Lakers because it is Nike. Any Nike product, I'll always put just do it because that's their logo. And then on top of it, I just put satin snap, I put streetwear, and yeah, it sold. So happy to see it go. Not certain why I sold so much youth apparel, but it's just one of those weekends. And so next item up to bat brings out the kid in me, and I'm just a 43-year-old kid at heart. I sourced a whole bunch of Atari video games in box just a few weeks back, again from one of my local thrift stores. They're always making me deals. I bought a lot of items and they wanted $1 a piece on these, which was paying up a little bit because they don't sell for a whole lot. Had they not had the box, I wouldn't have paid that much for them, but because they did have the box, I was willing to grab them. I've already sold several of them, and a couple of them were worth 30 to 40 bucks, but most of them were only worth between 10 to $15. This guy here, not probably the most popular Atari game, but somebody out there is trying to relive their childhood, and that's where I step in. And so I love doing that. Reselling has made me feel like I'm Indiana Jones because I get that opportunity to go out and look for cool stuff, to source stuff, and to replace something that maybe was a part of somebody's past is actually really powerful and really cool. And it especially is cool when they give you good feedback and put that on your account. And so this guy right here sold simply for $10.80. I did get some shipping out of it, and I only paid $1. So happy to see it go. Now, next up to bat is an item I've been holding on to for almost a year, but I sourced these Fry leather riding boots at the tail end of last winter, and that might be why they didn't sell. They're also not in the greatest of condition, which is not uncommon with leather boots, especially riding boots. They get beat up, they get busted up, they get scratched. When people are riding horses, that's an intensive thing to do. And so often the items I come up with are not in great condition when it's Western wear, when it's Western boots. But be on the lookout for Fry. I love selling Fry leather. I've sold a lot of wallets, I've sold some purses, and I've sold several pairs of boots. Had these been in a little bit better condition, I probably could have got $20 or $30 for them. But because I've had them for quite a while, I have knocked the price down on them. And again, just not in ideal condition. So Fry leather boots, these guys here sold for $35 plus $11.50 shipping. And I did have to pay up for these. I purchased these in Durango, and I did give $11 and some change for them. But glad to see them go. Fry leather, just really premium, really good stuff, and generally sells a little bit quicker. So now here's another bread and butter. I just sourced these LL Bean women's flannel line jeans. They did have a few flaws. Now I only gave $4 for these. I bought 2 pair. I came into a pair of green men's flannel line jeans that were LL Bean, and I've already sold them for $25. But then I came into these as well, and these unfortunately did have some stains. They did have some color fade on the thighs, which wasn't terrible. But at the base of the pant legs, some of the flannel had some holes in it. And so obviously, when you have an item that's flawed and when you deal with items that are used, that's not uncommon. You need to be very forthright and upfront about the issues. Obviously, that's going to deduct from the value of the item, but being honest, being upfront is only going to help your store. Bad feedback will draw down your seller rating, especially on eBay. So just be honest with people. I did not figure out that these were flawed until I got them home, but it's winter. I sell a ton of LL Bean, and so I had faith that this was a brand I could sell despite the flaws, and I did. I had them listed, I think, for $17, and somebody did make an offer for, I think, 13 or 14 bucks. I did get some shipping out of the item, and I also only charged like $4. So happy to see them go. Be on the lookout for vintage LL Bean. LL Bean outerwear does really good for me. I stay away from a lot of their lighter weight shirts, but I love their jackets, and especially, like I've said in the past, vintage stuff just sells well for me. So I said this in a past video, if you're new to getting into reselling, find items that you can source easily, and then make one of those items your business partner. And this is my business partner, or at least one of them. But he's the top dog, and I sell more Carhartt than anything. But again, I'm particular about what I source. I prefer Carhartt vintage items. I don't buy a whole lot of Carhartt button-up shirts. I've backed off buying a lot of Carhartt denim pants. And I've also backed off buying a lot of Carhartt duck canvas pants unless they are double knee. So you do have to be selective with the brands that you source. And if you fall in love with a brand, just know that not everything from that brand may have a good resale value. But for me with Carhartt, it's their vintage jackets. And I make so much money off their vintage duck canvas jackets. But these bad boys here are a pair of overalls. And the reason I sourced them is because my grandfather was a farm boy from Kansas. He loved wearing overalls just like this. He had Carhartt overalls, he had Key overalls, and so again, this is my grandparents shining down from heaven, helping me with my business, and I'm not that big of a spiritual person, or should I say a religious person, but I just love sourcing things from my past. It hits close to home, and I swear to you, I believe in the power of energy, and those people that are long gone, they're still helping me, trust me. And so these bad boys here I did pay up for. I got these at my local Goodwill. I paid 11 and some change for them, but they did sell on an offer for $38 plus $12.50 shipping. Now, had I not had a slow weekend, I probably would have tried to counter or try to pursue more in the low 40s, mid 40s.